3 words. All right. Morning, folks. We're back as we are Monday through Friday. Ugh. Give me a second here, guys. Let me just check all the platforms and then we're good to go. LinkedIn, we're good. Testing. Test. All right, good. We're good. Good on LinkedIn. Let me share that and let me go over to YouTube. Check that. And we'll get this party started. All right, testing. YouTube, we good? YouTube is good. YouTube's good. All right, let's get it. We back. We here. You know what we do. As one Crookshank here, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author and educator. What I do, what I created, what the whole Move Swiftly concept and framework is all about. It's taking the lessons that you learn on the football field and teamwork, the teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field, and aligning them with businesses and business owners. And so they have a staff, a group of employees that moves as eagerly, as cohesively, and has that same passion that a championship high school or youth football team does. That is what we do for anybody that may be new to my world. And if you are new to my world, just know I do these live streams Monday through Friday and usually no later than about 7:30. Seeing that I still do teach at a school with spring break coming up next week, it'll probably be happening a little bit earlier. I know this Friday I'll be doing a whole lot earlier than I normally do, just because, I like to get a lot of stuff done in the morning, get a lot of my thoughts out in the morning, so I have my data to do some other stuff or get things ready for the morning. And that brings me to kind of the topic and the things that we're going to discuss today, because it can be, especially when you're somebody in my shoes, somebody in my world that commentates and speaks so much, to draw so much of my content from what goes on in the football world. The challenge now becomes, okay, when it's not football season, how do I continuously stay motivated enough to really put out these live streams, to really put out the content, really put out the work? And I'm telling you, this is why it's important that you really work on creating your own stuff. All right. Today's topic is, again, like we do every single Wednesday over here, is something called entrepreneurship. All right. Book number 6. I'll be diving deeper into what the whole concept of entrepreneurship is. But much in a nutshell, it's basically taking the word entrepreneur, which is the person that has the entrepreneurial mindset, has the entrepreneurial vision, has everything, aligning it with the company that's paying every 2 weeks. So they've been blessed or fortunate in a situation where they are working for a company or working with a company, however you want to look at it, working with a company that is aligned in their entrepreneurial vision. So basically you have the entrepreneur mindset, and you're also dealing with the problems that your person has that has a typical day-to-day or typical 9-to-5 job, working a full-time job, right? That's what I've been able to align. And, typically there have been times throughout the week, and I'm going to let there's an article that I just put out today. I'll let the article play and it'll dive deeper into this, but I'll just say now there have been times throughout the past couple of weeks in which I do something called a wintrepreneur feature with other people, because I see other wintrepreneurs. There's tons of wintrepreneurs out there, right? But when it comes to coining a phrase, when it comes to putting a phrase out there, at some point, you got to be the one. You got to be the one representing it. You got to be the person that actually has the substance, that actually has the mindset, that actually has the stuff in their own head to put something out there, and not be on in a situation where you're constantly depending on others to put your stuff out there, to generate your business, to put your, whether it's your content, whether it's your podcast, whether it's yourself, whatever it is, you got to be the person. It's only so much, it's only so long can you have other people build out your platform for you. At some point, as a leader, at some point as a business owner, you got to show who you are. I remember my mother always telling me when I grew up, it's like, look, growing up, it's like, look, at some point, son, you have to prove yourself, no matter what you do, no matter how you do it, no matter who your daddy is, who your mommy is, who you know, who your coach is, what team you play for. None of that matters. At some point, you got to prove yourself to people. You have to do it. I don't care who it is. At some point, you have to show some stuff, some substance, and actually get on camera and talk about the things that you know how to do and become an expert on a certain topic. That has to happen. It's only so long you can depend on other people, have other people share your platform with other people. So no, I went on a like mini rant early today, but let me get through some announcements real quick, and then I'm gonna play the article today, and then we're gonna adjust and talk a little bit about just the concept of entrepreneurship, how I came up with the last two topics here, where it was something I was doing leisurely, and then all of a sudden the whole 2 hour live streams got created because I'm permanently motivated, permanently in my head, permanently in a situation where I am always thinking about. Brandon, what's up, Brandon? Yeah, I'm constantly thinking about how to create for the next thing. So first things first, free boxing lessons. If you are interested, West Palm Beach, if you're in the West Palm Beach area and you are interested in free boxing lessons, we do those every 2 weeks. Just simply hit the QR code that you see on the screen, or if you're listening to this via audio, then just go to freeboxing.makeyourmove.com. You heard me correct. Free boxing lessons for the folks that live in West Palm Beach. If you're interested, just hit that QR code. Also, as I mentioned earlier, what I do, what the Move Swiftly brand is all about, is about helping business owners create cohesive teams, create a team of a staff, a group of employees that have that passion, have that eagerness, have that hunger to them as a championship high school football team or a youth football team would. So what I need you to do is I need you to go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. Just plug in your information and you will get a 10-step guide, a 10-step process that I created, in which you could be utilizing right now in your business, that is going to make it so people are coming to work hungry, eager, and they want to progress. They want to get better. Also, be sure to tap into the Patreon link, patreon.com/as144. We have regular season, preseason, and postseason. Regardless of where you are financially, we have an option for you. All of that is available. Hold up. Give me 1 second. I got you. We're coming. All of that is available right here on makeyourmove.com. It's MakeYamove.com. You can shop now, get a copy of the books. You can join the Patreon. You can book me to speak. Or if you just want to know more about that as one Move Swiftly speaker guy, you can just simply learn more about me on makeyourmove.com. Or if you want to listen to the #1 podcast on innovative teamwork, you can do that there as well. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Entrepreneurship. First of all, let's get a definition. In fact, you know what? Before I even get started, I will play you the article. I'm going to play you the article that just got put out today. And what I want you to grab from it is the understanding that when you have decided, when you have made the decision that you're going to be in business, you don't get the opportunity to turn it off. you don't get the opportunity to take the hat off, all right, when it comes to business. No matter what time of day it is, no matter what it is you're doing, you could be doing something that is a complete leisurely activity. There's going to be something that you pick up on that makes it so you walk around with a pen, notepad, something, jot it down, and figure out how you can dissect and really, really puncture the subject and put your own spin to it. I'm not talking about copywriting and taking other people's stuff. I'm talking about hearing a good idea, being humble enough to hear and listen to the good idea, and then having a system in place as you hear this idea in which you can filter these things out to make it your own, to make it unique, to make it something, okay, look, somebody else might have said that, but Aswan's going to say it Aswan's way, and Aswan's going to be able to say it and then give his unique perspective on it, and then that person's unique perspective on it, and then that's what growth and development is all about. It's about bringing multiple perspectives in a situation to a table, and having those multiple perspectives grow, having those multiple perspectives grow into something that's going to be positive for the future. That's what it's all about. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. And I'm telling you right now, with the gentleman that we have in office, and if you see the way he's setting things up for the next 4 years, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, you see the way he's setting things up. He's setting things up in a way in which you have to be entrepreneurial as you go about your business. You're no longer going to have the luxury of sitting in some 9-to-5 or sitting in some virtual position and just taking up space, just a bunch of dead weight the way it used to be. That is no longer going to be made available to you at this point, at some point, like in the near future, as in like yesterday, now that we're through with all this woke and DEI nonsense, now you got to actually be good at your job. You actually have to be good. God forbid, you actually have to be good at the things that you do, so you actually bring some value to the workplace. So I'm going to let this play, and then I'm going to walk you through again verbally what I actually lived through, add a little more to it as I always do, and then we'll go from there. And by the way, if you have any questions, I think I just see it. Brandon was on the show. Shout out to Brandon at Wisdom Financial, with Wisdom Financial. All right, so let me make this bigger, and then I'll let this play, and then we'll go from there.
Entrepreneurship, I invented the shtick. As we do every Wednesday, let's talk entrepreneurship, a term I coined and the central theme of what will be book number 6. It's the idea of an entrepreneurial-minded individual who has been fortunate enough to land a job that aligns perfectly with their vision. A person who moves with strategy, ambition, and a deep sense of purpose, leveraging their position to create opportunities, build influence, and leave a lasting impact. Throughout my journey, I've highlighted others who embody this mindset. Here are some of my past features. Stephen S. Smith, the ultimate wintrapreneur. Byron Donalds and why he embodies wintrapreneurship. Tyler Santucci, a wintrapreneur on the rise. But today, I am the feature, owning the standard. Aswand Cruikshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. That's the brand, the movement, the mission. And as I look at the work I've been putting in, I see why I deserve to be my own case study. I've shifted from doing constant guest interviews to focusing more on self-reflection and personal storytelling. I'm at a pivotal moment, a new relationship, a growing online presence, and a standard of content creation that I refuse to lower. And what's interesting is how that very presence became the social proof that validated my work in her eyes. That's what happens when you build something real. Your work speaks for itself before you even enter the conversation. Everything is a lesson. When you reach this level of focus, everything becomes a lesson. You start seeing content ideas everywhere. Monday's discussion about being an artist or a performer. That question was inspired by an episode of Raising Kanan, a Power spinoff produced by 50 Cent and Courtney Kemp. It made me ask, what's the difference between an artist and a performer? And more importantly, which one do you need to be in order to achieve your desired results?
All right.
The truth is, you need both.
I gotta pause it.
As an entrepreneur,
I gotta pause it there. Let me pause it there real quick, because I did a whole article on this last year, and I'll let it run in a second. But I did a whole article on this last year. But when it comes to 50 Cent and the producing and the things that he did, I saw him last year in concert. They did the 20-year anniversary of his hit album Get Rich or Die Trying, and one of the things that I noticed and I picked up on was the fact that, look, I was in middle school, it's in high school actually, when he was big and that album came out. And then for him to continue to be able to sell out shows is because he stays in that art. He stays in the mode to where he grew with his audience. You know, as we grew up, he realized, look, the person that looked up to me growing up or liked my music growing up is going to be in the club and, you know, doing all the dancing and all that. They're going to be sitting at home with their family watching some show that's entertaining to them, which is, again, what it is I was doing. I watched that show, and as you're talking about, you know, figuring out what the results, figuring out what you're going to be in terms of performer or an artist, these are the examples that you have to be pulling from. This is what I mean when I say, hey, somebody else might put something out there and you see it. If you don't have it in your own head and in your own heart of how you can develop your own style to something similar that they said, then you are not ready. Then you're going to just be sitting back watching everybody else get to the bag, right? You're going to be watching everybody else get money. You're going to be watching everybody else go create stuff. You're going to be watching everybody else do stuff. I remember back when I was in college, Coach Woods was one of my position coaches, and they moved me the fullback. So they had these two fullback along with the tight ends and stuff like that. So there were two tight ends that we had that were typical taller guys. I would say they're around 6'4", 6'4", good guys in the pass game, can play your typical tight end. But then we also had another tight end who was a little short. I think he was like 6'2", but he was bulky, strong, right? And one of the things that, because we were a running team, Coach Woods would tell them, look, his name was Fenn. I think he's actually the head strength coach at Bowling Green now. And he goes, look, Fenn's going to beat you out. He was telling these two prototypical tight ends, look, Fenn is going to beat you out. He's going to beat you out because he's the only one getting movement on these run plays. He's the only one getting movement on these run plays, and he's going to beat you out. So the next day in frontage, we're all getting it's frontage is basic. I know I'm talking in football terms, but frontage is basically the offense going against the defense just on run plays, just working the run game stuff, right? And then Coach Woods looks at those two prototypical tight ends and he goes, look, don't watch someone get better than you. Don't ever just sit back and watch someone beat you out. Let's see if you can start getting movement on these run plays. So I have confidence to have you guys in during the run. All right. That's what I mean when I say, look, at some point, you got to want to be successful so bad. You got to want it so bad that everything you hear, everything you see that a successful person is doing, you say, okay, how can I adopt some of that up into my stuff? How could I just get a little squeeze of that? How can I get a little something, like, how can I crack a door open? How can I do something that's going to make it so my work is a little more valuable and I create more value in whatever marketplace I'm looking to puncture? That's what you have to do. So I'm gonna keep letting it cook, but I do have to make sure I make that point.
As an entrepreneur, business owner, or creativist, or a performer? That question was inspired by an episode of Raising Kanan, a Power spinoff produced by 50 Cent and Courtney Kemp. It made me ask, what's the difference between an artist and a performer? And more importantly, which one do you need to be in order to achieve your desired results? The truth is, you need both. As an entrepreneur, business owner, or creative, you need an audience to pay attention to your work. That's where the performer comes in. The one who can captivate, engage, and keep people locked in. But without artistry, without real skills, depth, and the ability to create something of value, performance alone won't sustain you. And here's the key. The secret to mastering both is teaching. Teaching forces you to find your voice, to refine your craft, and to make your message resonate with others. If you don't know how to articulate your lessons, you don't really understand them yourself. Tuesday's top 5 list came from the movie 1992, starring Tyrese Gibson. As a history enthusiast and someone stepping into fatherhood, that movie hit differently. It reminded me why history must be taught in a way that resonates. I grew up hearing about the LA riots, but was never incentivized to dig deeper. Watching 1992 changed that. It made me reflect on how history is taught and why making it relevant is crucial. History needs to connect to students' real lives. Otherwise, it's just information that goes in one ear and out the other. There needs to be a motivating factor behind learning it. Too often, tenured teachers default to memorization instead of sparking curiosity. Real history lessons don't just happen in classrooms, they happen in families. My older sister taught me about slavery before any school did. My father made me read books about African American leaders. If we don't teach history with real-world applications, we risk repeating it. This is the same principle that applies to entrepreneurship and life. If you don't find a way to connect your lessons to your audience's experiences, they won't listen. If you don't make your message relevant, it won't stick. The win-trapreneur mindset. This is what win-trapreneurship is all about. It's not just about making moves. It's about making moves with purpose. It's about seeing every experience, every movie, every show, every conversation as a source of inspiration to sharpen your message. The reason I coined this term and the reason I'm writing book number 6 about it is because this mindset is bigger than business. It's about ownership, impact, and sustainability. The biggest takeaway. Before you launch anything and seek validation from others, be ready to do it on your own. Because you never know who is watching. You never know who is entering your life at the right time. You never know how your next big move will unfold. So yes, I invented the shti, and I'm just getting started.
That was a lot. That was a lot. I unpacked a lot there. And a lot of that, if you've been tuning in for the past 2 days, some of that was somewhat, could have been somewhat repetitive because I said it yesterday and I said it on Monday. But here's the bigger, like the macro part in terms of what it is, what's important for you guys to take away from today's live stream is don't be afraid of repeating yourself. Don't ever be afraid of saying something the same over again. It's because you never know who's listening. First of all, you never know who's new to your world, and if it may be their first time hearing you say it and stuff like that. And your concept, your mindset should always be about, how do I add new people into my world? How do I go and get new audience members? How do I go and get new customers? How do I go out and get something new? Secondly, is because if you believe it strongly enough, if you have the principles long enough, if you have a certain core, a certain belief, a certain thing, if you're being moved by something that's authentic and honest and real and productive, you're going to have to repeat yourself. You're going to have to go and repeat yourself and say your story over and over and over again. And we'll get into that a little bit tomorrow in terms of the bag. The people who really get the bag really are the folks who've been able to perfect 2 or 3 good, not 2 or 3, I won't say 2 or 3, but been able to perfect a element and concepts of how to tell their story in a way that resonates with an audience. And they've been able to do it over and over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where it just comes out naturally. You got to work to get there. You got to work to get to that point, whether you're working and you're doing it because you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to do your own thing, or you're doing it because you want to get a certain job, or you're doing it because you want to get a certain certain spouse or whatever it is. You have got to make sure you can tell your story and you have the ability to do it. It has to come from a real place, folks. It has to come from a real place. So let's go back. Let's go back, because I got a little off track today. I got a little wired today. Let's go back to the beginning. All right. So let me go back to Monday. So Monday's live stream was the question. I put the question out there in terms of what would you rather be? Would you rather be the difference? That was the other one. But Mondays was, what is the difference between an artist and a performer? All right. So I got another comment there. Yeah. What is the difference between artist and a performer? Right. And again, I'm someone that really doesn't watch a whole lot of TV. The show Power came about maybe a couple of years ago when my sister told me to watch it, and I was like, I don't feel like watching it, whatever it was. And then, ever since I watched the first episode, I've been hooked. And it's one of those things where I'm watching it, but I don't look at it as a waste of time because of the way it connects and the things that you actually learn, right? So as this show's been going on for 10 years and they've been spin-off shows, and every time you think it's going to be over, there's another one popping up, there's a bunch of stuff going on, right? So now I'm actually really, really hooked, and whatever new power is coming out, even though I might say, I'm not going to watch it, at some point I get that first episode and I'm hooked, right? So as we're going through the show, there's certain lines in the show that, would make me, sit back and jot some down and, say, okay, how can I use this? How can I use that or whatever? So it came out Thursday. And then as usually, let me just kind of let you know what my process is in terms of how I put out the content. By the time Friday gets here, usually every Friday, my mind starts going towards the next week. My mind starts thinking about, all right, what's new around this time? Probably there maybe some March Madness going on. Maybe there's some college football playoffs. Maybe there's some NFL playoffs. There's something, again, because I'm a football guy, primarily speak on football stuff. It becomes now really, really important for me. I put that pressure on myself to make sure I have something that I'm thinking about, something to discuss that's going to serve my clients, serve my people within that by that Friday. So I'll know specifically what I can talk about, right? So as I was watching the show, and at the end of it, and this is how 50 ended the show because he has his voice kind of commentating on it. He goes, what's the difference between an artist or a performer, a soldier or an actor, something like that. And that's when it was like, that's what we'll talk about. That's what we'll dive deeper into. That's what I'll explain. That's how I'll put that on a Make Your Move Monday kickoff question, do a whole article about it, do a whole live stream about it. And then that's going to be something that lands with the type of person that I want to serve. That is the mentality. Okay. So that's Mondays. Now, Tuesdays, I have a system where it's Top 5 Tuesday, where, again, making sure there's relevant content, making sure there's something relevant, but there's something that's also going to be evergreen in its, at the same time, it's relevant, but it's evergreen. So let me see if I can plug Tuesday's topic in some sort of system. Right after, I'd say maybe Saturday it was, I watched, excuse me, let me get some coffee. I saw the show 1990, not the show, excuse me, the movie 1992 pop up on the Amazon Prime Video. And myself, growing up in 1989, primarily in the East Coast, I didn't really hear, I heard about the LA riots, but it was never something that I was much incentivized. I didn't really know much about it because I wasn't incentivized to learn a whole lot about the LA riots. You just heard stories. You heard about Rodney King. You heard about a lot of different things, but I was way, way too young to pay much attention to, and I really didn't know how it worked or what was going on. So before I watched the movie, as I always do, because again, your most valuable resource is your time. Before I watched the movie, I looked at some of the things that Tyrese was saying about it, what it meant to him to actually have the role, all that kind of stuff. And then I watched it and I realized, man, this is a story about two fathers that are in two different worlds, two different situations that had that were living through the same LA riots, living in the same type of a thing, but they are in two different worlds, in two different situations, and they were able to collaborate, not in a positive way, obviously, but they connected off one basically trying to protect their son. And it's again great viewing especially for the situation that I'm in right now, where you say to yourself, okay, that's a Top 5 Tuesday. Had certain things been out and, hey, had I learned this and learned that, all right, that's a Top 5 Tuesday. And then you get to Wednesday, where I know I'm going to be talking entrepreneurship. I know it's the term that I came up with. I know it's the phrase I came up with. And just in the sense of now it's kind of a down season for me, seeing that there's no football on, being able to tell the story, being able to tell the way the thinking, that type of thinking, educate people on this type of thinking, being able to tell the story about how I came up with previous topics and how I continue to come up with topics over and over and over and over and over again. Excuse me. How I continue to come up with topics, being able to tell that story is a story in itself, is a valuable lesson in itself. All right. You understand what I'm saying? Is now you got to understand that when you have moved from just being schmoblo or just hate to put it like this, but when you've moved into a certain level of status, like when people Google you, and that's what they do. That's what people will do when they start looking you up and they start seeing public figure, they start seeing videos, they start seeing certain things that keep popping up. And, this person is going to remind you that it's like this AI world and this, Googleable technology world, AI driven world, that we're moving in now. When you got stuff, as much stuff as I do online, and when you have an online presence, this stuff just takes on a life of its own. It really does. It takes on there's absolutely no control over it. I've yet to, I've been meaning to have the videos ready, but I haven't had a chance to actually sit down and put a Google ad together. I've yet to put a Google ad together. So much that I have not done yet, that I'm in the process of doing yet. And there's still a online presence. And when you move in that direction, it is on you. It is on you to make sure the product and to make sure the stuff is continuing to come out, because you have the ability to do so. All right. So that's Monday and Tuesday. That's how I came up with those two topics. All right. Now, as we move forward, and I mentioned this in the article that I just played for you, now it becomes one of those things where something has to give, right? Something has to give. And I remember actually interviewing Dr. Danny Brazel. I remember actually interviewing him this past summer, the summer of 2024. I remember interviewing him, and I met him. I'm connected with him on Podmatch, which is where I found a lot of the people that it's like over hundreds of guests I've had on the Move Swiftly podcast, man. It was like interview after interview after interview after interview. And I mean, they're all been coming out regularly, all new people coming out on the show regularly. I mean, it has been an absolute blast. But I remember interviewing him, and he said something to me before we started recording. No, he said it during the recording. Actually, he said it during the recording. He said, look, I introed him as I normally do with a guest that I have on the show. And he goes, I'm actually more interested in hearing about you as one, because I'm looking at your show. It's like with over 1,000 episodes at this point. Why are you even having guests? Why are you even having people on your show? Because you've built up a solid platform to the point where you could write your own tickets. You won't need guests to build out your show. You don't need guests at this point to make it so your show is successful, your show is doing numbers. You can really focus on putting out the substance and getting in front of the people that you want to get in front of. That, and when I heard him say that, and then you look at his resume and look at what he's built out, and you look at the work he's done, that right there actually is the reason I got into that reason I put out the first book in the first place. When you have that kind of feedback from seasoned speakers, seasoned educators, seasoned authors, seasoned business owners, folks that have been in the thought leadership world long before I was even born, and they're giving you that kind of feedback, that's the feedback that you got to take, and you got to run with it. You got to run with it. You got to run with that feedback, take it and go, because it's genuine, honest. It's genuine and it's honest, and it's advice that you may need later on down the line. It's advice that every entrepreneur, intrapreneur, whatever you want to, whichever category you want to put yourself under, you need it during those tough days. You need it during those days where, look, I can't depend on other folks just showing up to do an interview. When again, the topic and the things that I would discuss, I believe I have understanding. I believe I have enough confidence in myself at this point to be able to run a show, to be able to do what it is I have to do without the help of a guest, without the help of somebody sharing out this and sharing that. So say all that to say this. It's not that I'm not going to have guests anymore on my show. There's still, I believe, another week of the Move Swiftly lineup in terms of guests, but it's definitely not going to be Monday through Friday the way it was. I mean, I remember getting an email the other day. It was like, you've conducted about 116 interviews over the past couple months. So it was a lot of people on the show, and the network grew, the person that you're looking at grew, the status on the online presence grew. So much of what I can ask for, so much of what I can do from a business standpoint grew. The show grew immensely. All right, all those things are great. But as I was explaining to, as I've been explaining to, and as I'll kind of close you guys out too. I won't go a whole hour today. I'll close you guys out around 40 minutes. But as I have explained to you guys today, is pretty much the takeaway, and we'll just do a takeaway now, is, do you have it inside of you? Do you have it inside of you to go and run your business without you're going to need help, but without the depending on other folks? All right. There's a difference. All right. Now I'll close you out there. There's a difference between running your business and say, I'm depending on this person, or I'm working with this person. I'm working with this person because this person sees my business and sees what is as I do. They see the benefits within themselves. They see the benefits in terms of what it is they want to get out of their situation. And I see the benefits in terms of what I want to get out of my situation. But you never want to go from working with someone to depending on someone. All right. I'm telling you straight up, this is important now. This is a very, very important distinction that I'm bringing to you guys now. When it's fresh, it's unscripted, it's authentic, it is raw, uncut, live stuff, which is what I do on a day-to-day basis. You in business owners, all right, take this story, go back and listen, go back and read this full article. It's right here on medium.com. Go back and read the full article. Go back and listen to some of the things that I've said already. And I need you guys to understand, you never want to slam yourselves into a situation in which you're depending on another person to do business, as opposed to working with a person to build business, to build opportunities, to create more opportunities for yourself. You want to stay in a place in which you are continuously working with people. And the difference between working with folks and depending on folks is when you start depending too heavily on somebody else to get certain things done, and you get in this comfort zone where you're depending on a person to get certain things done. At that point, your business is like, it's like a ticking time bomb. It's only so much time before the whole thing blows up and it gets ruined. That's the takeaway today. Really ask yourself that question today in terms of the direction that you're taking your business. Are you moving in a direction in which you're depending on other people to get the business done, or are you making it so you're continuously working with folks to get things done? All right. So that's all I got for you guys today. I know it was a quicker one than I normally do, but again, do this Monday through Friday. And it was just kind of a recap in terms of how a person can come up with a topic, how a person can really think about, even when they're in off season, even when they're not, have a lot of the things going on, a lot of stuff that they talk about is kind of in some downtime. It's still important that you put content out there. It's still important that you put something out there, because you don't know who's in your world. You don't know what is being said. You don't know where it can land. And again, a lot of times, if you're a natural speaker, or you're public, or you're somebody that really has some actual substance, certain sayings, certain things are going to just come out of you that you don't even realize came out of you. I had no plans at all just now to bring up, there's a difference between, depending on somebody and working with somebody. So again, that's going to go in the can, and that's going to become something that we do a full article about and do some case studies about and learn about and research about. Again, all of this stuff is working within. So again, makeyourmove.com to dive deeper into everything I'm doing. It is, again, you can shop there, Patreon, you can join the Patreon, book me to speak, or just simply learn more about me. And you guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.